That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. She couldn't do it. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. All she did was walk away. And I was like, what is this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. Couldn't do it.
Up for sound bites. This is awesome.
Welcome back to Anti-Religious Scripture Study with me, Karen B., and of course, Just Jack Flat Earth.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm sorry, I'm typing to somebody in chat. Wow, ratting starting. Okay, there we go. All right. Sorry I missed you last week. I was traveling down through Florida, and after traveling, I really needed to rest on Shabbat. So forgive me all for not being here. That was definitely my fault. I am really excited because everything is happening here very, very, very soon. In 5 days is the most expected date for Yom Teruah, which is going to be after the first light of the renewed moon. That will be on Wednesday, and Teruah will be on Thursday. And then on the 10th day, it will be Yom HaKippurim, the day of looking into self and reflecting on Yah. And then a few days after that, on the 15th day through the 21st day, and then the 8th day on the 28th day is Sukkot, the time for camping. And directly after that will be Flattoberfest. So it is all happening very soon and very quickly, and I'm super excited. It's going to be great.
That's right. That's right.
So I'll read my disclaimer. Oh my gosh, I hate when that happens. I can't say Just Jack when I'm saying Just Jack, but when I say Just Jack's disclaimer, for some reason it gets twisted. Anyway, sorry. Just Jack's disclaimer. To the religious, if you believe it's wrong to study the scripture outside of your religion or denomination, if you believe your religious leaders or church fathers are incapable of having inherited anti-scriptural traditions of men, if you've already made up your mind about scripture, including the scripture shouldn't be studied at all, then this stream is not for you. To others, if you are open-minded to others' opinions, if you haven't made up your mind about scripture, if you've been turned off to religion but believe there's truth in scripture that may have been changed or hidden by religion, if you live according to scripture and like to dig in and discover more, then the stream is for you. We are looking at scripture in the original language using concordances or dictionaries for words, as well as context from a non-religious perspective. We will as well have life experience discussion. We are not here to argue with others about theology or doctrine by the traditions of men, including Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. We will be discussing the importance of origins and show how religions contradict the scriptures. There you go. See, I skip a week and then I'm all out of sync. As far as this show is concerned, because you had somebody ask you and about the entirety of the scriptures, and someone just asked me about the New Testament of the scriptures, and this stream is specifically Torah based. So when Deuteronomy is done, I don't know what we're going to be doing after that. I was going to talk to Karen about some other possibilities. She may not want to do this type of stream anymore, but we'll discuss that later. But at some time in the future, I was thinking of possibly doing a stream, basically like a Q&A on Shabbat stream, so that people can ask questions like that. So we don't have to stay on a subject like this.
Yeah.
Because this is like, we are specifically trying to go through the scriptures and show, I mean, it's in the disclaimer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the things that we've found, like I've learned a lot just going through this again, right? Because I've read through the Torah, but having an in-depth going chapter by chapter, verse by verse, word by word, finding these little nuggets that are in here that, like, I'm even, growing, and I've been looking into studying Torah for 10 years now. So it's great.
Yeah. Plus, it's like it's a pretty important part of the Bible. I mean, not that the rest of it isn't important, but
right.
There's a lot. It's just so much is in these first 5 books. It's even got
Foundation.
its own name. It's it's the foundation.
Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to go through that and read it in depth and get a good understanding of it.
Yeah, because once you understand the Torah, and when I say understand, I don't mean like, I know everything about the Torah. I'm just saying, like, when you get a clear view of the Torah rather than looking at it through the religious eyes, you can then look at the rest of the scriptures in light of or in lieu of the Torah. Because what people don't understand is, like, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes, is that when Yeshua starts talking about stuff that he's pissing off the religious leaders with, he's not coming up with new information or a new plan. He's literally quoting Torah. And that's what it makes him mad about, because they're like, oh, we're the teachers of the Torah. And he's like, well, the Torah says yada, yada, yada. And it gets them pissed off because they are doing a religion. They are not doing scripture observance. That's the difference between, that's why I like to classify religion as the man-made control of the scriptures, right? Rather than just living according to scriptures. There's a huge difference for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a healthy case of skepticism, where if I'm living a certain way and then I find in the scriptures that it says something different, I will flip that switch without having to go to a religious leader and say, hey, I know we're doing it this way, but doesn't the scriptures actually say this? And if you find out anywhere in even like Torah assemblies, once they have their dogma, it's very hard to get them to change, because then it's a group thing. Like, oh, well, we have to get enough people to believe the same thing as you in order to apply. That's nonsense. Everybody should read the scriptures for themselves and apply it as necessary. And a lot of that has to do with growth, right? Like levels of conviction, like in the beginning, all it was for me was just Sabbath. And then I added the Moedim, the feast. And then I started doing other observances and so on and so forth. But it's a step learning process, because you're not going to be like jumping from one culture into another culture and then have everything right? Like, let's say, modernize, like you go over to China, not knowing nothing about it. And then you do certain things that you're used to doing in America and you start offending people. And you're like, well, what's the deal? Like, well, in this culture, they do this, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
learn to adapt and so on, right? So
Right.
scripture culture does not work with westernized culture at all. So not to mention it's a heliocentric religion across the plane that we have to deal with that is also contrary to the scriptures, right? So let's see, I'm going to quickly go over 15. 15 was about the sabbatical year, which is every 7 years, the land rests. And the thing about the unclean sacrifice again, where if you have a sacrifice that you're bringing to the place where Yah makes his name dwell, or where the Ark of the Covenant resides, that is a proper sacrifice. If you're killing to eat meat on your land, it is unclean as a sacrifice, but it's perfectly clean to eat. And there is a distinction between that people need to understand. So now we're in Deuteronomy 16, and it gets into the calendar, which is very important because, like I said, the fall Moedim are coming up this week. So we can start with verse 1 whenever you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Guard the new moon of Aviv and perform the Pesach to Yehovah your Elohim, for in the new moon of Aviv, Yehovah your Elohim brought you out of Mitzrayim by night.
Okay, so this thing of the month of the Aviv is harvestable and roastable barley. And we can see that is the determination of this month, because all the way back in Exodus chapter, I think it's 13 and 9. Don't quote me on that. Sorry. I'm pretty sure 13 is where they talk about the calendar. You would think I would know this by heart, but yeah. Today you are going out in the new moon of Aviv, right? Verse 4 of 13. And then it refers to the Aviv barley as green ears, I think, or something like that, for the word Aviv in chapter 9, where it says that the barley and the wheat were described, and it says that the barley was Aviv. So Deuteronomy 16, verse 2.
And you shall slaughter the Pesach to Yehovah your Elohim from the flock and the herd in the place where Yehovah chooses to put his name.
Okay, so why is there a distinction between flock and herd? Is because this is not known Oh, I'm going to move my mic a little closer. This was not known modernly, but it says that you can have your Pesach from the sheep or the goats. So that's why there's a difference here.
Mm. All right. Eat no leavened bread with it. For 7 days you eat unleavened bread with it, bread of affliction, because you came out of the land of Mitzrayim in haste, so that you remember the day in which you came out of the land of Mitzrayim all the days of your life.
Right, because when you're making matzah, unleavened bread, you don't give it time to rise. You make it in haste. So you mix the dough, you cook it really quick, like tortillas. Like basically they're like tortillas. Not the ones that they sell in the store. Those are,
Right.
in my own personal opinion, that those suck. But anyway, the thing is they had to make something very quickly because when it was time to leave Mitzrayim, aka Egypt, you need to pack up and go. You know. All right, verse 4.
And no leaven should be seen with you in all your border for the 7 days, neither should any of the meat which you slaughter in the evening on the first day stay all night until morning.
So the Passover lamb, whatever you don't eat, you're supposed to burn up. That is a true Passover. We can't have a true Passover anywhere because we don't have the Ark of the Covenant to celebrate it, but we still have the remembrance that's supposed to be forever. The leavening back in the day, what a leaven was a lump. If you've ever heard of friendship bread or like when you do like a sourdough, it starts with a lump, right? And then that lump activates another lump and then so on and so forth. And you just pitch off a piece of that lump and you make the next loaf with it and so on and so forth, right? So this concept of leavening, this was a process that was done in Mitzrayim, but it wasn't done by the what do you call them, nomads, of oh my gosh, Canaan, right? The nomads of Canaan, including Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all of them were nomadic, and they didn't do lumps of bread that they would hold on to have bread rising and stuff like that. This was a Mitzrayim concept as well as beer. So, and beer is also started with a leaven lump.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 5.
I
guess it would be called mead. Sorry, not beer, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Same thing.
You are not allowed to slaughter the Pesach within any of your gates which Yehovah your Elohim gives you.
Okay, this is what I was talking about. An actual Pesach sacrifice must be done at the place where the Ark of the Covenant resides, because that is the appearance place of Yehovah. All right.
But at the place where Yehovah your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell, there you slaughter the Pesach in the evening at the going down of the sun at the appointed time you came out of Mitzrayim.
All right, so I'm gonna, man, I should have done this ahead of time, but I have this like wild hair to look it up. Okay, so Ark called. Okay, so if you look at 2 Samuel chapter 6 verse 2 and 1 Chronicles 13:6, it refers to the Ark of the Covenant being called by the name of Yehovah. So that's just, throw that in there, because it says wherever he calls his name to dwell. Well, the Ark of the Covenant was called by his name. So wherever they moved the Ark of the Covenant, they were moving the name of Yah, right?
And you shall roast and eat it in the place which Yehovah your Elohim chooses, and in the morning you shall turn and go to your tents.
Yep. And then it doesn't go into as much detail in here as previously, but when it says it shall roast, it says that you can't boil it, you can't what's the other method? I forget. Well, yeah, seething, boiling, same thing. But anyways, roasting is the only method by which you can cook that lamb. All right, verse 8.
6 days you eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day There is a closing festival to Yehovah your Elohim. You do no work.
All right.
Feast of Weeks. Oh, okay. Is this the same thing? Wait.
What? Are you looking at those? Yeah. Those are the separations. So this one was about Passover,
Okay,
right?
so it is going over the different appointed times. It's not just talking
Yeah.
about one. Okay.
So the first day and the seventh day of Matzo is what's called a Sabbaton, which is a diminished Sabbath where you do no work, you do no servile work. So that's what it's talking about, this closing festival on the seventh day, that you don't do any work. So yeah, now we're getting into the Feast of Weeks, aka Shavuot, which means weeks, sevens, oaths, or Sabbaths, because they're all the same root. Oath, Sabbath, week, 7. All right. Verse 9, go ahead.
Count 7 weeks for yourself. Begin to count 7 weeks from the time you begin to put the sickle to the grain.
Right. And this is, again, more detailed in other locations where it's called the morrow after the Sabbath. So if it's, a week-long festival, obviously somewhere within the week is going to be a Sabbath day. And the morrow after the Sabbath, aka Sunday, is called the beginning of first fruits, aka Bikurim. And the first fruits is counted 7 sevens. So 7 Sabbaths, and then the morrow after that, 7th Sabbath, is Shavuot, the Feast of Sevens, the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Oaths. All right?
Mm-hmm. And you shall perform the festival of Shavuot to Yehovah your Elohim, according to the voluntary offering from your hand, which you give as Yehovah your Elohim blesses you.
So this is a free will offering that you're trusting how Yehovah will provide for you within these 7 weeks. Like it's more like a gratitude type of offering. Like, you've provided for me in the past, I'm expecting for you to provide for me in the future. So for those 7 weeks, you bring offerings that are, not necessarily mandated, but as you are moved to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And you shall rejoice before Yehovah your Elohim, you and your son and your daughter and your male servant and your female servant and the Levite who is within your gates, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow who are in your midst, at the place where Yehovah your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell.
And we've talked about this many times in the past, that the tithe is supposed to be set apart to take care of the widows, the orphans, and those in need, and for the Moedim. So when you go to this place where Yah's name is dwelled, nobody is left out. Everybody's taken care of. Everybody's having a good time. Like, it's commanded, you shall rejoice. Like, if you're not rejoicing, you're not doing it right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. And you shall remember that you were a slave in Mitzrayim, and you shall guard and do these laws.
Okay. So they are statutes, inscriptions, customs, decrees, right? Because laws get confused sometimes with Torah, right? Which is directional, and laws are like a written mandate, right? It's slightly different, but it's similar, but it's good to know the difference.
Mm-hmm. Perform the festival of Sukkot for 7 days after the ingathering from your threshing floor and from your wine press.
Okay. It's translated often as feast, and feast is not a good translation because they used it sometimes for Moedim, which means appointed times, and the other one is for partying or spinning, right? Partying or spinning is what this is about. It's Chag Sukkot, or actually in this case, Chag HaSukkot. Chag means to, spin, party. And if you remember, when the late Rob Skiba used to use this word about the circle of the earth, he pronounced it chug. It's this word. It's chag. It's the encompassing, the spinning. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
when you're having a party of Sukkot, a festival of Sukkot, it's because, like, you're drinking, you're spinning, you're dancing, spinning. But this is the same, this is the same word as the one where he sits above the circle. the chug,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which the late Rod Skiba used to say chug. I always got a chuckle out of that. All right. 14.
And you shall rejoice in your festival, you and your son and your daughter, and your male servant, and your female servant, and the Levite, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates.
And again, commanded that you must rejoice, and nobody's working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For 7
right.
days you shall celebrate to Yehovah your Elohim in the place which Yehovah chooses, because Yehovah your Elohim does bless you in all your increase and in the work of your hands, and you shall be only rejoicing.
In case you didn't get the hint,
Yeah.
you must have a good time. And this is my favorite moed. It's a week of camping, basically. It's to remember dwelling in the wilderness of Yah. And in early stages of me following the Torah, I knew people who would rent a hotel for the week, because it's not their personal domicile, so that they're in a temporary dwelling for 7 days. And I'm like, that defeats the purpose of remembering the wilderness. It's just, people like their luxuries, but it's good to get out in the. I love that Yah commands us for at least a week to get out in the wilderness,
Yeah,
to
it's good for
commune
you.
with the creation.
Well, it's good for you too to be in nature. It's like physically good for you, grounding and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yep. Physically, psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
it's so good to get out and, excuse me for sounding weird, but hug a tree.
Yeah, man.
Get out there and interact with the creation.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
3 times a year, all your males appear before Yehovah, your Elohim, in the place which he chooses, at the festival of Matzot, and at the festival of Shabuot, and at the festival of Sukkot, and none should appear before Yehovah empty-handed.
In other words, you don't go, gosh, how can I say this without being offensive? There is certain people who expect to be basically treated like royalty because they believe they're the ancestors of the chosen people.
Mm-hmm.
And they expect that when they go to these Moedim, that they're going to be taken care of. Even though, like let's say you are a widow or an orphan or someone in need, you bring what you have, right, to enjoy the time. You don't come empty-handed. You are giving thanks for Yah's provision in the wilderness, and you're expecting Yah to provide for you into the future. And the other thing is like, this clearly says 3 times a year, but there are teachings going around that I was very into early on, that there are 7 Moedim, and it's just because they like the number 7. Because if you break it up in different ways, you could have 10, you could have 6. It depends on how you break them up. And then, of course, if the scripture says 3 times a year, it's these 3 times a year, right? Matzot, Shavuot, Sukkot, all the oats, right? Those are the important ones. Those are the ones to focus on.
All right. But each one with the gift of his hand according to the blessing of Yehovah your Elohim, which he has given you.
Yeah, I already went through that.
Okay. Okay. Appoint judges and officers within all your gates, which Yehovah your Elohim is giving you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous right ruling.
Okay.
Do not distort right ruling. Do not show partiality, nor take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous.
Wow, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Like, oh, he's such a straight edge guy. He would never do anything wrong. He's not getting a big enough bribe.
Yeah.
All right.
Follow righteousness alone, so that you live and inherit the land which Yehovah your Elohim is giving you.
Okay.
Do not plant for yourself any tree, as in Asherah, near the slaughter place of Yehovah your Elohim, that you make for yourself.
Okay. I'm glad that this verse is here, because we've hit this before. Asherah is also Ishtar, Astarte, Easter,
Mm-hmm.
and the Asherah pole. It's not very clear in other places because they culturally know what an Asherah pole is. But this one specifically says, a tree as an Asherah. So these are, let's see what this one is. Yeah, etz. So timber. See here they changed the word tree or wood, something made of wood, right? It's either tree or something made of wood. That's why I use the word
Mm-hmm.
timber. And they translate it as grove, as if it's a specific type where, see if I can go to the interlinear here. Yeah, and it literally just says etz, right? There's no prefix or suffix. It just literally says tree. But yet they put, grove. A grove is not a tree, right? A grove is like a forest.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the translators of the King James Version had no concept. So the tree is a symbol of the uncircumcised member of the reincarnated sun god born to the queen of heaven. It's all sun god worship stuff. That's why you don't make a tree for Asherah near the slaughter place of Yehovah. So this is talking about, where he causes his name to be dwelled. Don't you dare raise up any Asherah poles there. And a lot of times what they would do, which is further in the scriptures, like the history books, is they would take the Asherah high places, right? And there's this word for high places all throughout, where it's like, don't worship me at the high places.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you can't build an altar at a high elevation and worship Yehovah. That's not the point. The point is that they would take Asherah sacrifice locations where they possibly have sacrificed children and all sorts of stuff, unclean animals, etc., and they would just knock over the Asherah pole and say, this high place is given to Yah. And the scripture says over and over again, do not do as the nations do and say you're doing it unto me. Don't hijack their religious expressions and call it a new name and dedicate it to me, like Christmas, Easter, Halloween, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. That's what he says. Okay. Multiple cathedrals, when Catholicism was really kicking off in the 400 or 300 AD, in that century, all they would do is take pagan altars, pagan churches, and baptize them and make them into cathedrals. And that's why, it's pretty creepy when you look into history. All right, 22.
And do not set up a pillar, which Yehovah your Elohim hates.
All right, there you go. So I'll jump in here.
So by
All right.
pillar, it's talking about a pillar for Asherah?
Yeah, any kind of deity pillar.
Right, okay.
Yep. A column, any standing witness of a false deity. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be like that. All right. So shout out to Cammy, Aisling 717, first one here. Isabella Live. JP. Joseph Osborne, Effed Up World, Conspiracy Crypto, TC Zaman, Voy, Boston Ray Mudflood, Dennis Amarond, Just Caroline, my wife, and Valley Parks. If I did not shoot, oh yeah, you said you're late. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jack, do you have plans to do the New Testament? Like I said, maybe sometime in the future, I'm going to do like a Q&A stream, where we can actually go into the scriptures. But some of these things, it might be like, if you ask me a question on this week, I'll give you an answer next week because I have to research it sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just to let you know, it's going to be very hard to pin me down on Revelation. Just let you know that right now. Spinning sounds like the globe to me. In mockery, he's joking. He's joking, folks.
A pillar like
obviously,
a rocket. That's pretty good. Effed up world.
He sits above the orbit of the Earth, or the yeah. The spin of the earth. Show my causes. Okay, that was something else. Dennis says the truth. I don't, no context, just says the truth. Grove is many or orchard. Yeah, exactly. And it's a bad translation. And I think in this case, I don't think it was a purposeful mistranslation. I think it was an ignorance in the translation, because, like, why would they plant a tree, a singular tree, to a deity? Because that's what they did. And then they would collect the tree when it was full grown and hold it up so that it does not topple, and ordain it with gold and silver. And that was all to worship Asherah and the sun god. And this was done in the winter solstice. Just saying, though. He bends the water level. Yeah. It's a joke. Shout out to Rocky Shepherd that came in last second. And I'm guessing it's Yvonne, even though it's Iwan.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe
because it
that's
looks,
Ivan.
Yep, because I'm thinking that it's Russian, and forgive me if I'm wrong. But somewhere in that Eastern Bloc is, I assume it's Yvonne. Let's see. Maypole, yes. Maypole actually does have that connection. Like, just like May Day, right? May Day, Maypole. That is Asherah worship for the getting ready for the spring. What's it called? The spring equinox, but it's called, well, I mean, it's called Easter now, right? It's getting ready for Easter, Ishtar. So yeah, it's crazy when you start looking into the religious celebrations and the root of where they came from, and they've just baptized them and made them okay, which I don't agree with at all. Daniel 8, when he saw the ram, that word is al, which means like a column or a pillar also. I'll have to take a look at that.
I'm almost
Well,
spinning.
I don't know. Ale, or the Aleph Lamed, is strong lead, and the yod in between would be doing a strong lead. Sometimes a strong tower is in reference. So I'll have to take a look at that one. Anyway, I'm not Russian, but born in Holland. Okay, there you go. That question's answered. I'm glad we got there. Alrighty. So get ready, folks. It's going to be a busy month for those who are doing Torah or doing Flat Torah Fest or both. So get ready, folks. Karen, you should read the Testament of Solomon. At the end, there are demons carrying a pillar up in the sky. All right. That's my effed up word. All right. You ready? I'm ready.
All right. All right.
Shabbat shalom to y'all.
That's it. Yes. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Anti-Religious Scripture Study.
And the earth is still flat.
And the earth is still flat. All right, you guys. Have a restful day. We'll see you later. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.